The defense has officially begun presenting its case in day 14 of the Lindsay Clancy trial, and I feel like the jury is starting to get some context around some questions that I think a lot of us have had over the past few weeks of this trial. I already posted part 1 of this recap with the morning's testimony, so feel free to check that out. Let's begin. When court came back from recess, Reddington immediately made what's called a Rule 25 motion for a required finding of not guilty. In this motion, he's asking Judge Sullivan to end the case right there because, in his argument, the Commonwealth had not presented enough evidence to legally support a conviction. Now, keep in mind there are 2 major pieces at issue here. The Commonwealth has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Lindsay committed the charged murders with the required intent. And because the defense has raised lack of criminal responsibility, the Commonwealth also has the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that Lindsay was criminally responsible at the time. Judge Sullivan denied the motion, which isn't particularly surprising at this stage. See, he wasn't being asked to decide whether he personally thinks Lindsay is guilty or whether the Commonwealth has ultimately proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt. The question at this stage is whether the Commonwealth has presented legally sufficient evidence from which a reasonable jury could reach a guilty verdict. Once that minimum legal threshold has been met, the ultimate decision remains where it belongs, with the jury. So with that motion denied, the defense begins its case. The first defense witness was Margaret Hamp, a labor and delivery nurse who worked alongside Lindsay at Mass General for years. She described Lindsay as compassionate, kind, and a strong patient advocate. She said Lindsay would sometimes become emotional watching complete strangers give birth because she thought it was beautiful. She also described Lindsay constantly talking about her children at work and asking coworkers for parenting advice. One story really stood out. Years earlier, while Lindsay was working overnight, she checked the baby monitor and saw Cora crying. Patrick wasn't answering his phone, and Lindsay became so worried that she actually called police to perform a wellness check at the house. But the Commonwealth established an important limitation on cross-examination. Hamp had never seen Lindsay after Callan was born, so she couldn't tell this jury what was happening inside the Clancy home during those final months. Then on redirect came a pretty haunting piece of testimony. Hamp remembered discussing the Andrea Yates case with Lindsay after they encountered a pregnant patient experiencing suicidal thoughts. According to Hamp, Lindsay said she couldn't understand how a mother could hurt her children. Lindsay became visibly emotional during that testimony. The next witness was Lindsay's sister, Allison Ozga, who described a very different Lindsay by Thanksgiving of 2022. She said Lindsay looked tired, her mood and energy were different, and by December, she believed her sister had significantly decompensated. Lindsay was reporting depression, insomnia, numbness, hopelessness, and increasing suicidal thoughts. Ozga recalled Lindsay telling her near the end of December that she'd experienced